Hi. Do you realize it's almost a year to the date that we spoke last
Is
time?
it? Is it
Yes,
really?
yes.
Oh, it makes my heart sing.
How
It,
beautiful is that?
it makes my heart sing. It's so good. I'm so excited about this. So I was just looking at my phone to see if it said that we were live. We're live. Yay. Hello, Mary Houston.
Hello, Missy Bird.
For the people that are new to our world, would you please do a quick introduction of yourself and tell people?
Oh,
I know you
I
love this part.
can. I know, I love this part. I can. Hello, everybody who doesn't know me yet. My name is Mary Houston, and I am a spiritual money coach. I love that phrase, Dr. Melissa Bird, who tagged that to my name. I help women heal their money shame, is what I do. I am a single mum to my beautiful son who is differently wired, and I work 5 to 10 hours a week, and I have a very profitable, thriving business. And my whole mission in life is to help women, especially working mums, to find joy and money simultaneously in their life.
It's so, so, so great. It's just,
That's me.
it's so magical and amazing and wonderful and delicious. And I just don't know.
And all the things.
Right? And so the reason I wanted to invite you in particular to be a part of this interviews about gratitude is because you taught me my gratitude practice that I use now, that you teach us in The Joy of Money. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because you know that I am the imperfect gratitude person. Although I figured out I actually have a flow and a rhythm to it. So that's kind of, it's not as imperfect as I thought it was. But I would love to start off with you talking about your regular gratefulness practice, because that's how we're starting off all these conversations. And what is it and how did it come to be?
Okay, I love that question. So thank you for asking it. So my daily gratitude practice is a practice that I now call the Magic Pages, which I teach all my students and my clients. And it basically is a practice that I do morning and night, and it involves writing down 10 things, 5 things that delight me, and 5 things that I'm grateful for. Now, this kind of has a story about it, because when I was broke, going back a few years ago and facing eviction and going through all the things and didn't have any money, and I was like, everybody was telling me, all the prosperity people were telling me, you got to be grateful, you got to be grateful. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? How can I be grateful? You know, it's like, you know, all those stories where people are like, you should be grateful for every penny. And I'd be picking up these pennies I'd find in the street going, I don't want a penny. I want 1,000 quid. Like, don't give me a penny. How can I be grateful for this? So I had a real resistance to gratitude. I had a real issue with gratitude. And so
I don't want a penny. I just have to say that, like, you're supposed to be grateful for all the little things that you get.
No, I just want this. So I needed to find another way in to access this, because gratitude, actually trying to be grateful in hardship, was a huge trigger for me. And so one of the ways in which I kind of found the back door, the back gate into gratitude, was through this concept of being delighted, which is basically what I teach my clients and what I practice. What I discovered was that appreciation has a different energy to it. Appreciation has a different feeling to it. And I found that I could appreciate things in my life, and that didn't trigger me. So I could go out to the garden and I could appreciate the colors in nature, or the smell of a rose. I could appreciate drinking my tea whilst it was hot. I could appreciate, like, waking in the morning and having had a peaceful night with my son. These were things that I could actually appreciate, and they made me feel delighted. They made me feel joyful. And so this is kind of how it started. And then I started to realize, through accessing gratitude in this way, that then I was like, Oh, that kind of gratitude feels so good. It feels so delightful and so delicious. And I dropped all of the, we all grew up with the whole, you should count your blessings. How dare you leave your food? There are children starving in Africa. It's like, so we grew up, with this, we should be grateful. And it's such a trigger when we have scarcity and shame. And so what appreciation and delightfulness did for me was it brought me into the temple of gratitude through the back door, and it made me be able to access it in a different way. So I start every day with 5 things that I'm delighted by, and that eases me into it. And then I have 5 things that I'm actually then physically grateful for, about my body, about my physical surroundings, about the people in my life, about the evidence that's showing up. So that's my daily gratitude practice, is those 10 things, morning and night.
I love that so much. I laughed actually, ironically, because I just pulled my mother. You're going to starve. Like, there's children starving, except for Katie was complaining about fighting with Sean, like Sean was being argumentative, as Sean is. And so, because we've all been in our house for months on end, you know what that's like.
Yeah.
And so, and they were bickering, and I was like, at least you're not getting tear gas. And I was like, how did I just?
Oh God, I did it.
The person who was like, who was my mother? I was like, oh my God, I just went straight there. This is horrible, because people are experiencing horrible turmoil during these protests because, our president, anyway, that's another story. So, so you have been doing this practice every day. Tell everybody how long you've been doing this.
I did this morning's was day 482. So every day I write the date and then I write what day it is. So 482 days straight.
It's incredible.
And in those 482 days, I have literally gone from living off of benefits to having a booked out business where I work 10 hours a week.
Right.
Like there is no coincidence between these two things. There is none.
So why is being grateful something you consider important? Because there is no coincidence between those two things.
Because it brings me, and the reason why I teach it to my clients is because, and you and I love talking about this word, it brings you into a state of grace. It brings you into that place where we are able to, I talk a lot in the money shame work that I do, I talk a lot about this idea of resting in sufficiency. We cannot get from scarcity to surplus, we cannot get from lack to more without crossing over the bridge of sufficiency, of this just enoughness, and so what I have found that gratitude and appreciation and then eventually gratitude is able to help us do is to discover really what this idea of sufficiency means. And every time I teach the joy of money and we talk about sufficiency, and one of the exercises is what do you believe sufficiency to be? And every single time women are like, well, sufficiency is settling. Sufficiency is giving up. Sufficiency is like saying, I never quite got there, and all of these kind of self-punishing, derogatory implications of just this being enoughness. Whereas, what gratitude and appreciation for me helps us do is actually just pause and rest in the graciousness of the gift of life, because even no matter how hard life gets, and for anyone who doesn't know my story, my son has a panic disorder and he has a rare form of autism, and we live in a perpetual state of anxiety and trauma. And so gratitude and appreciation is what keeps us thriving. It's what enables us every single day for us to sit down and just go, what was gracious about today, even amongst everything? And it is my saving grace. What's so amazing about grace? It is that it is, well, it's the gateway to love, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the gateway to expansion. It's like the gateway to being open and resting in the ability to receive love and grace and compassion, and these things that we're constantly talking about craving, but we like fight against it. One of the things I love that you say is you talk about what we resist persists, and you talk about that a lot in your work. And we want all this stuff, and we get into this like fighting match about it. We push against it, and what this practice of gratitude allows you to do is really fall back and surrender into that, knowing that it's just there. It's all
well,
there.
It's the paradox. It's the paradoxical nature of manifesting, that the second that you quit wanting the thing, you're going to get the thing. Like, you know, and it just blows people's minds off when we do this in the Joy of Money, when I'm like, you got to stop looking for the thing. And people are like, but Mary, I'm here because I want the thing. I'm like, you gotta be willing to just be without the thing for a little while. You know, I kind of call it, and I think it's a really important conversation, I think, to have around gratitude, is because there may be so many people hearing this and then they'll go, oh, great, gratitude is my way to the money, so I'm just going to start doing a gratitude practice. And I actually talk about this idea of malicious manifesting, where we're actually just doing the thing to get the thing, you know. But, you know, gratitude isn't one of those things that you can fake, you know, like gratitude is one of the things that you can fake, but real appreciation, graceful gratitude, you can't fake it, you know. And vibrationally, the universe knows, you know. I always say to people, God doesn't want you to be poor, but God wants you to be willing to be. And there is such a crucial part in those words, which is, I have to be willing to let go. It's like the famous quote that oh gosh, I can't remember his name, but he said, you have to be willing to give up the life. I can see his name in my head. You have to be willing to give up the life you dream of in order to allow the dream to come true.
And in order to live the life you're meant to live. Yes,
you know the one I mean. I'm trying to. It will come to me the second that we finish talking. And so this idea of sufficiency, this idea of surrender, we are conditioned to believe that these are such passive things to behold, that they are, you know, this idea that it's just that we're giving up, that we're quitting, whereas actually they are more powerful than the force and the push and the hustle.
Exactly. It's Joseph Campbell.
That's it, Joseph Campbell, yeah. And so, you know, you were talking about this idea of expansion, but I think so much of what we achieve through gratitude when we do the Joy of Money work is that actually it's, what gratitude does for you is it releases you of the ties that bind you. You know, because so often it's not our lack of vision or our lack of wanting or our lack of desire that holds us back from stepping into that expansion. It's the ties that bind us. And gratitude unties those knots. Yeah,
it really does.
To me,
it's incredible.
It really does.
It really does. How has your life changed since you began focusing on gratitude? I mean, you you talked a little bit about Flynn and your son and his autism and those things. And you and I have talked a lot about just what the world is experiencing by having to be at home because of COVID. And yet you live this life where you are home all the time.
Yeah.
But you have such a rich, beautiful, glorious life. Not without its struggles, like like everybody, but you do have a very rich life. How has your life changed since you began focusing on gratitude?
It is literally, it's just so completely different in every way. Like it is in my relationships with my son, and how I deal with him and how I'm able to just stop trying to fix him and stop trying to control and change that situation.
Mhm.
Physically, we've gone from living in a tiny mold-ridden house to living in a beautiful, spacious house in the countryside.
Money shame is what I do.
Sorry, echo. My bad.
Okay. Oh, so materially it has changed, spiritually it has changed, physically it has changed, but even on the days when things are really bad, because the nature of my son's autism is that he can just literally, it's kind of very similar to bipolar, and he can just literally slip into rage and attack, and that can last for weeks or days. And so the only thing that stops me from spiraling into that black hole when that happens is my gratitude practice. There is very little else that will do. Sometimes I can't even pray. Sometimes I can't move my body. Sometimes I can't even talk to people, and there is no support, and there is no one coming, and there is no help. And I literally have to sit there and just go, what can I see through the lens of gratitude? And it's like putting on those rose-colored glasses, but it is, and I will look at my son and I will go, well, yes, I can find 100 things that are annoying me right now, but can I find 3 that actually, I love? So I talk a lot in my coaching about this idea of witness consciousness, and this sort of ability to get off the stage and to separate yourself from the reality of the situation. So people are locked in their homes, or they're experiencing incredible stress and torment and torture and violence at the moment, and everything that is going on. And sometimes when I'm right in it with my son and I cannot find anything, this little practice where if I take myself off the stage and I give myself some space, that helps me access gratitude. From the place of the witness, I'm able to look at him and go, okay, there's my boy, there's my son, and this is what I'm grateful for, and here's our house, and here's our life, and here's my dog, and here's the things, so part of one of the things that really helps, to access gratitude if you're stuck and you are stuck in suffering and you can't access it, is this little practice of literally see yourself walking off the stage of your life, whatever stage you're on, whatever, so instead of being in the play, you become a watcher of the play, so you get off the stage and then you start to observe what's happening on the stage. And the space, the gift of that space, that's grace. That's what grace is that space. And when you have that space, then you're able to access gratitude and see through that different lens.
I really love that so much, because I think that so often, and I do this when I forget to practice gratitude, like when my brain just starts working on overdrive, I forget to fall into that space of grace. And the thing that that I love about these conversations I've been having with all of you is that there's this common thread about connection with listening to something outside of yourself, like tapping into something higher than you, like the divine or spirit or God, or however you're comfortable putting it. I think that it's so beautiful when you think about this idea that when we're at our worst, when we are the most stressed out, when we are the most afraid, when we are the most worried, being able to go into that space of finding the things that we are most grateful for is how you pull out of that fear. Is that? Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. And I think that I saw it for real when I was traveling through Africa years ago, and we were traveling through these communities of people who literally had nothing. These kids were like rolling up, goat herds and making footballs out of them and leaving them out in the sun to dry. And I was just, they would come and they would look at us, and one of them wanted the biro that I had that I was writing with, and the sheer joy on their face. That memory always sticks with me, that I just think, in our modern day world, it really is, you've got to be hard pressed to not be able to access gratitude when you've experienced something like that, you know. And the cause of our suffering is, in so many ways, is our own greed. You know, there are so many communities throughout the world who have so little physically and materially, and yet they are the most gracious, joyful people by nature. And I mean, that just speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it really does. And we forget, that there is such privilege in falling into that, we just forget. And that is,
you just forget. Yeah, it's really easy to.
Oh my God, yes, I've been doing it regularly. How imperfect is your practice of gratitude?
Oh, you know, it changes every day. You know, so some days I might find myself writing the same thing that I did the day before, and I'll go to beat myself up over it. I'll go, really, Mary, can you not find 5 new things to be grateful for? I'm like, at least I'm reflecting on something, you know. So it's like, well, what did I write yesterday?
I'm being intentional.
You know, and then some days I'm like, actually, I want to be grateful for that again today, because it might just be the only thing, you know. So yeah. I think it is huge. It's, as I say to people, you can't get it wrong. The whole point of a gratitude practice is more that you're tuning in to the presence and the witnessing of life and its blessings, rather than how perfect that it is.
Well, and I think that we have to remember that it's practice. We're practicing. It's a yoga practice. It's soccer practice. Yeah. It's a practice. It's not, life is a practice. It's not that you walk into life as an expert and you're like, I'm going to do gratitude and it's going to be awesome. And one of the things that I have found in my practice, my gratitude practice, is that often, until I get to the thing that I'm really looking towards, I do repeat the things I'm grateful for often, or the people that I'm grateful for often, as a piece of where I'm trying to get to. Like with the Mermaid's Garden, I'm thanking the owner every single day for being willing to negotiate with us and talk with us and work with us and figure this whole thing out, because I know that he is a key to making this happen. And often people get frustrated with the things that they are grateful towards, or the people they're grateful towards, because they can't see how it all fits yet, because there's a mystery behind this, right? So what is one tool you can share with people that will help them recognize what to be grateful for?
Ooh, I think us talking about this whole idea of just getting off the stage, that's such a really powerful tool to be able to just see your life through a different lens. But one of the tools that I teach my clients is what I call appreciation through the 5 senses. So a lot of times people just get, I don't know what to be grateful for, especially when we're stuck in suffering or we're going through hard times. And so it's really hard to access that. And I want to say that, because I'm not denying this, you know, people will be, it's all right for you. It's easy to be grateful when you've got the money. That's what I hear all the time, you know? And so I know this because this started when I was in strife, you know? And so this whole idea of appreciation through the 5 senses. So I will literally, days that I struggle, and there are days that I struggle, I will literally go, what's one thing that I can taste that I'm grateful for? One thing that I can see that I'm grateful for? One thing I can hear that I'm grateful for? One thing I can touch that I'm grateful for? One thing that I can smell that I'm grateful for or delighted by? So using the 5 senses, because then you're kind of taking it out of your own head and you're looking around you, and it becomes almost like a treasure hunt, you know? So it might be the smell of my coffee, or the smell of an essential oil, or the feel of my bed, you know, or the touch of my child's skin, or the sensation of hot shower in the morning, you know. So when you can actually access appreciation and awareness through the senses, it becomes so much easier. So some days when I'm struggling, I'll just literally use the senses to trigger my appreciation and gratitude, and it's a really great fast way to get into it.
I really love that because it ties back to this idea of what you talked about the back door to gratitude is delight. When you take your senses, and you're not the first person to mention this 5 senses gratitude, so it seems to be something that is in people who have a really strong gratitude practice. This is something that they fall back on a lot. When you can take the time to smell the roses, so to speak, right?
Literally, that
takes you through that back door to delight. Because when you think about like the smell of your son, like I know that for all of us that are mothers, the smell of our children, well, for many of us, the smell of our children is a delightful smell. Or this idea of looking out at the clouds or the sky, or like, what do I see? You know, like that it gets you to that back door into gratitude being delight.
And it does. And I think it's really important for people to remember as well that, you know, our ego is not invested in our success. So if you're struggling with gratitude, don't beat yourself up. Don't think that you're a bad person. Don't think that you must be some, you know, miserable, you know, person who just can't find anything. More often than not, it's just the makeup, the chemical and scientific makeup of the brain is designed to stop you noticing delight, because it's not invested in our success, you know, which is why the appreciation through the senses is such a powerful tool, because you shift the part of your brain that you're actually using. So when we try to intellectualize gratitude, our ego will literally get in the way. You know, it will make us think that we're rubbish and we don't have enough, and that that's not enough to be grateful for. Whereas when we can go and access through our senses and access our right creative brain, then we can bypass that intellectual obstacle, and gratitude becomes more of an experience rather than a list of shoulds. You know?
Yes, I love that so much. One of the things, as we are recording this, for those of you who may or may not watch this in the future, our earth is in a great deal of turmoil. You're in England. I'm in the United States. We're on our, I think, 5th day of rioting here in the United States about racism and Black Lives Matter. You are in England, you know, dealing with COVID and disease and people feeling isolated and afraid. It's hard to be grateful for many people at this moment. And I think that these are moments where we can keep pushing through these things that are happening and still fall back into that gratitude in order to center us to keep moving towards the path of justice and towards a path of healing. So thank you for this beautiful.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
I'm so grateful to you.
I am so
and you
grateful
show up
to
on
you.
my list pretty regularly.
Well, likewise. And I will say really quickly that actually what's really powerful is to actually do a gratitude practice with somebody. Either do it as a family or do it with somebody. Like in the UK, our community started practicing gratitude for our healthcare workers. Every Thursday, people come out of their houses and they clap, and we're still doing it. So like, what are we now, week 12 or something? So it started like 3 months ago, and every Thursday night, people are coming out of their houses and they blow horns and they bang saucepans. And so what I'm noticing is that this collective practice of gratitude has completely changed the energy of the community.
I love that.
Actually, collective gratitude is really powerful. So just even if you're struggling by yourself, if you live on your own, connect with a friend and ask, you know, switch lists and practice it together, or practice it with your family, or practice it with your clients or your community. Collective gratitude really will supercharge it. And that just kind of popped in to my head because, really you know, I think it's, you know, collective energy shifts are so much more powerful than individuals.
Love that so much. We love you too, Liza. Liza says she loves us.
Oh, we're grateful for Liza too.
And we've had a couple of folks watching. It's so lovely. Mary, how can people find you if they want to know more about your work and the joy of money?
Oh, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me at maryhouston.me, and you can find out all about the Joy of Money, which is open for registration for September again. And
everybody do it. Everybody do it. It'll change your life forever. Everybody do the Joy of Money.
So that's how you can find me, and I'm always loitering on Facebook and writing about joy and money and grace and gratitude and all the things. So
all the things. I love you so much, Mary Houston. Thank you.
I love you. Have a beautiful day.